I've been fascinated with art and music my entire life. In my adult life, I've been blessed to have met so many immensely talented visual and musical artists. Many from here in my own backyard. Kansas City has an abundant wealth of talented creators of original art. Join me, William Saunders, on a journey to illuminate the hidden architecture of creativity, how artists see, feel, imagine, and realize their inner worlds by engaging in open, exploratory dialogue. By bridging the rational and the intuitive, we aim to inspire fellow creators and curious audiences to appreciate the deeper forces behind visual and musical expression.
Inside the Creative Mind with your host, William Saunders.
Welcome to this episode of Inside the Creative Mind, and today I am joined by my friend Ace Lovelace, and we're going to dive into some of his incredible work. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and kind of, background and just, a little bit about you as an artist and kind of all the things you're into.
Yeah. My name is Ace Lovelace. I am in my mid-30s. I started off doing, as an artist, pretty young, started off doing singing, and then that moved into theater, and then moved into dance, and then from then on, it just kind of spiraled into whatever I felt like doing. So,
You're a very complex artist, so it's kind of like I said before we jumped on, was that, it would be very hard to kind of pigeonhole you in one box or another and say, well, you're this and you're that. Because I mean this from the bottom of my heart, I find you to be one of the most intriguing human beings I personally have known, because of all the things you can do and all the things that you how you express yourself. I find myself like watching the short film we're going to watch here in just a little while. When I watch that, it's rare for me to watch something and go, oh, that's good. Oh, I wish I would have thought of that, because, obviously I got my own shtick that I do, but I was so thrilled with that, that it reminded me just of how creative you really are. And that's one of the reasons why when I decided to pursue this podcast and actually talking about this subject, one of the first names that popped in my head was you. So I just want to tip my hat to you and just say, that you express yourself in ways that make me feel like art is alive and, obviously in very good hands. And you're one of the people that I can't wait to see what you do next. And whenever you share something with me, I'm always, I always try to do what I can to support you and make sure that the other eyes can get eyeballs on it as well. So thinking about as a child and growing up, what was the first thing you fell in love with? I think for me, it was probably music before art, but they really happened, really visual art, really about the same time.
Yeah. I grew up in a family of singers. My parents sang backup for many a Christian or gospel recording artist. They sang with some of the some world-class musicians, like Lester Estelle Jr., Lester Estelle, the whole Estelle family. But
Yeah,
I was always surrounded by it growing up, and I didn't realize how much that was affecting me. And so I thought, like, growing up, that I was going to be a singer. I thought I was really good, and found out later on that I needed some training. But music was my first love, probably. Yeah, I'd say that.
was there a lot of music other than gospel in the household when you're a kid, or is it primarily gospel?
Yeah, most of the music that I listened to was gospel music. Pretty much all of the music that I listened to was gospel, contemporary gospel music, Fred Hammond, Kirk Franklin, Israel Houghton, uh, those
Yeah.
Byron Cage, those guys. I listen to it all the time, and my parents always think it's weird that I don't know like popular music from like the '90s or like older music from like the '80s and the '70s that they listen to. They're like, you don't know who this is, and I'm like, you always played Christian music, you always played gospel music around the house or in the car when we were driving, and I mean that's where I got my ear for harmonies, singing in the car with my family, and so gospel music was like really good, just kind of a place for me to kind of learn um, how to sing and music in general.
And I assume that you started doing visual art at a very probably early age too. Is that correct, or is that something you picked up a little bit later on?
I picked that up. I didn't start doing visual art until 2020, 2017 maybe, right before COVID. Actually, maybe 2014.
As somebody who obviously I know quite a few visual artists, it seems like you probably had been doing it a lot longer, because I mean, like as I said, I am a fan, and you got some really good pieces, and I'm going to display some of those right now over the broadcast, so our audience can see some of those as well, because there's some really great pieces that you've put together. So one question I as I was looking through stuff last night and refamiliarizing myself with some of your work, one of the questions that popped in my head that I was curious about is, was there a particular show or something that you saw that the choreography made you feel like, I want to do that? That's what I want to be. I want to someday do this and do it myself. Or is this something you just arrived?
I would say something that just arrived. I'm the type of person that I immerse myself into something, but usually beforehand, I'd never been introduced to it before. So like with musical theater, I had never seen a show outside of the shows that I had been in. And so when I started to get older and the dancing became harder, I started to really enjoy that side of, because I was always cast as a dancer. And so I was, it was really the shows that I was in that the choreography kind of got me into wanting to do choreography as well.
Cool. How would you say that between writing music, creating a visual piece of artwork, film, and then choreography, how would you, in dance, how would you describe the satisfaction that you get? Or is it the same satisfaction you get from each form, or is it, do you get something different out of each one of them? Because I would imagine probably if I was in your shoes, I would probably get they would satisfy different parts of my soul, for no other word to use for it.
That's a good question. I don't know if satisfaction is the word for it. It's more painful than that. Just to learning from what I'm doing, I think, and learning about what my potential is probably my favorite part about it. Is like, oh, I didn't know I could do this, but hey, here I'm going to try, and then I'm going to put it out in front of people and see what they think, and if they like it, cool. If they don't, cool.
Right. I've always whenever I've worked with young artists, I make a point of always emphasizing to them that do what you're going to do for you regardless, and do it as though nobody else is ever going to see it. That way you're never disappointed by what the reaction is, because you can't take something that people just go goo after as being the what your expectations should be for everything. And if somebody doesn't like something, you shouldn't take that as the expectation either. There's going to be people who are fans, and there's going to be people who hate what you do. And the sooner that you can ground yourself and say, I'm not doing it for them, I'm doing it for something that's within myself. And then if people gravitate to it, so be it. It's just a bonus. But I'm doing this because this is an expression of me. Would you agree with that?
I agree with that. Yeah, when it comes to like what people think about my stuff, it doesn't bother me that much. I think if somebody's going to like publicly say something negative about it, I get more upset that they decided to publicly say something negative about it instead of just like being quiet, because I don't think that I have a strong sense of justice, and I would never do that to somebody if I didn't like something. When I view art myself, I just try to enjoy it as much as I can. Even if it's horrible, I'm going to say it. I'm going to be like, hey, they did something. And that's what inspires me, is that somebody started something and completed it. So I would never like go and do that. And so just the fact that somebody would go out and do that's what bothers me in that sense.
Yeah. You know, trolls are going to troll, you know, you can't, there's no getting around that. And of course, you know, it's just another form, in my opinion, it's just another form of bullying. You know, did you really need to do that? Does it make you feel better to try to tear me down? I mean, does that boosting you up by doing that? It just, it's not necessary. If you don't like something, look at something else. If you don't like something, listen to something else. You know, it's not that hard.
And
change the channel, do whatever. Yeah.
It's the idea that like we're always in development with everything. So you, as I grow as an artist, things are going to get better. I think that's one of the most frustrating things, is that like when I create something that I like, there's always that frustration of, but it could be better. I wish I was 5 years in the future making art right now, because I would have more experience and it would be better. But now I'm here at the beginning and I'm still trying to figure it all out. So, yeah.
Yeah, they're just little timestamps of the journey. You know, the things I do when I turn 80 is going to be different than obviously what I did at 20. But you know, they're little memory stamps, if nothing else, of you know where we were in our growth and our evolution as humans reached a little point in time. You know, I don't hate on my old stuff. I just, you know, because it was what it was then. You know, I've grown. I'm different than I've ever been. So let me ask you this. How much does, just in the current time frame, and you can speak to this if it's been like a lifelong thing as well, but especially right now, and this is not a dive into politics or anything like that. It's simply an acknowledgement that the socio-political times right now seem to be turning the clock back quite a bit. How does that affect you, and how does that translate it into your artwork, both from a lifelong perspective, and is it affecting your writing now, or your creation now?
I think the reason why I decided to be an artist was because of the naysayers and the people who want to turn back the clock. Because it started when I was in high school, and when I first realized that I was Black and that was a problem to people, was I was in the theater department and I was never cast in any of the plays, because, and every single time it was because I was Black, and she would tell me that, and I'd just be like, I don't understand why this is a problem.
Wow.
Yeah, and I then began to really go hard at musical theater because my theater teacher, I wanted to prove her wrong. And so I spent all my energy on that. I think that had she not had it, things have gone easier for me. I wouldn't have worked as hard to pay attention to everything that was surrounding me, listening to every direction that everybody else got, and then putting that onto myself, nobody needed to tell me that, because I didn't want to get that same note as somebody else got, or that same piece of advice on acting as somebody else did. So I would make sure that I pay attention. So by the time they got to me, I was doing it correctly, or doing it in a way that they liked. Um, and so I just kind of gained all this knowledge. I have ADHD, and I've been diagnosed with that. But I also think that I have, uh, after doing lots of research on it, I think I'm on the autism spectrum. And so having them both, ADHD and autism, they call it ADHD. Um, I think that has a lot to play with it as well. Um, of how I've been able to take things and keep it there. But back to your question. As a Black individual, I think that gave me the boost that I needed in order to do that. As a gay individual, that was probably more traumatic growing up, because all the theater programs that I was taking at the time were Christian theater programs. And so when I came out, that was an issue with every single one of them. And so I lost like all my friends, I lost respect. And so I started doing more of the secular stuff. And that's when I started to really fall in love with it, was this new community that had accepted me for who I was, and so on and so forth. But when it comes to my art, I never really think about the fact that I'm Black or queer, um, because it doesn't really influence what I create. I think from like with O, from the perspective that it's showing is a perspective that a person who isn't Black would never be able to make. Um, but it never kind of, I don't know. I like when I create characters for like my musical, I had the main character be Black, but it's hardly ever mentioned the fact that he's Black. I didn't want his Blackness to be another character in the production, but I just wanted to give an opportunity for more Black males to have the opportunity to play a leading role in a musical going on into the future.
Okay. Oh, so let's take a little quick break, and when we get back, let's take a look at. Oh, okay.
Okay.
This episode brought to you by How the Light Gets In, the new book by author, artist, poet, and musician, and future guest Angela Carroll Brown. How the Light Gets In offers a practical guide of 10 principles to aid in taking care of our spirits, keeping sanity, serenity, and joy in our daily toolbox, living with greater authenticity, and staving off the harmful effects of the fight or flight mechanism of a sympathetic nervous system in hyperdrive. How the Light Gets In is available in book and audiobook format. Visit angelacarrollbrown.com for more information or to get your copy today.
Here is O by
Okay.
Ace Lovelace. Well, I got to tell you, the I just love that, man. I can't tell you how much I bet I've watched that 10 last night, and I just I think it's incredible. I think your job you did writing, directing, and pulling that whole thing together. The soundtrack fits it perfectly. I couldn't possibly think about how I would improve upon that. I mean, it's such a well done piece, so I wanted, tip of the hat, Ace, man. That is just wonderful. It's just
Thank
a
you.
really, really nice little short film, man.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Can you describe the moment that idea first took shape?
Yes, I was sitting and I wanted to watch Kendrick Lamar's halftime show again. And I watched it again just because the first time I saw it, I thought it was so cool. But then after I learned more about it and learned more about Kendrick's how his mind works, I thought I want to do that
Mhm.
too. But I was in tears thinking about how unfair it all is and how somebody that is as talented as Kendrick has to, in order to make some type of change, has to go to the Super Bowl, like his Super Bowl performance, and to use a big metaphor or allegory for oppression, the oppression of Black folk in America. And I was like, hey, I want to do that too. And I just had an image pop into my head of 12 men sitting in desks, and they were doing something that was some type of cycle. And at first it was 12 men, and then it moved down to, I think, 7 of us. But yeah, Kendrick Lamar was the inspiration for that.
Sweet, and I remember watching that too and thinking to myself as like, I just kept thinking, I was like, half the nation is going to be just blown away by this, and half the nation is going to be mad
Yeah,
because just silly
yeah.
stuff. Were there any roadblocks to getting this piece out? I mean, was there anything that you had to struggle with, or was it just this thing just bam, just kind of happened?
It was for a competition and at the Independent Filmmakers Coalition of Kansas City. And I was really upset because during the last competition, I thought that the film that I did for that should have gotten something, but it didn't. So I was like, okay, I have this idea. Maybe I can use this idea for
Mhm.
this competition. And so I'm writing it out, and I decided to do 12. And finding 12 Black men in Kansas City that can act is a very difficult thing to do. Luckily, I know many people, and those people know people. So I had originally 12 people to do it, but just with trying to schedule a time, we only had like a month and a half time frame to do it. And these are all working actors, so some of them had gigs and couldn't do it. Um, and so it moved down to, I believe, 10. So I was constantly moving people in. I probably went through like 20 guys. And the night before, we had somebody drop out because we didn't have a location yet, because our the 2 locations that I had picked out had both gotten booked like that day, because they got booked by someone who can pay, and I was gonna get it for free. So I lost both of those spaces,
Mm.
and I was like, I have no clue where we're gonna go. And so one of the actors, Terrace, he asked if we could use the William Jewell space, and he went there, and so his teacher allowed us to come in and do it. The day of, we had 3 people drop. And so we called
Oh
a
wow.
friend. Yeah, we called a friend and asked him to come, and then I had to end up being in it because I wasn't in it and to begin with. And so I had to, as we were there at the school, setting up, I had to completely change the system that I was creating onto how to shoot this thing. The cinematographer, who did a great job, had no clue at all what I was trying to communicate. And that was really difficult to try to communicate something. There was no script to it because I decided to uh, make it a silent film, but there were lines in it. And so I was going to have subtitles, but I didn't have After Effects, so I couldn't make good subtitles. So we just went completely blank on it. So for his script, I kind of wrote out what I wanted, but he still, it wasn't clicking. And so when we got there, I was able to help tell him exactly kind of what I wanted the cinematography to look like. Can you set the camera in the middle of the circle? Can you move it around? So that was another communication thing that was really difficult. That whole day, I was like the cortisol in my body was going. My amygdala was acting up super hardcore because it was so stressful to do all of that work while staying as a leader, keeping my head on, being kind to everybody, making sure I was respectful. Even though at points I just wanted to scream for whatever reason, but things just kind of worked out. Worked them. If you can handle a crisis with grace and ask the other folk that are a part of it to have some grace for me and take responsibility for the things that aren't up to par to what a professional would do. And have good crafty services so people have things to eat. You can put this all together without too much of an issue for everybody else, but for me, it was a really stressful day.
So how do you spend in post-production, and how did you know when it was done?
The cinematographer, we had worked before and he did the editing, and he still didn't understand my vision for it. And so I had never edited a film before. I'd done some editing like with my artwork and for like demo reels and stuff like that, but I'd never put together a story like that. So he sent me over the footage and I just experimented with stuff. And in post-production, I probably spent probably 7 hours putting everything together. Yeah. I think when it was done, when I found out that it was done was when I could cut it down to just 3 minutes. We shot for a whole day, for a whole 12 hours. And we had so much footage, but we just had to cut, because it was a competition where the film had to be exactly 3 minutes. And so just putting it and cutting it into those 3 minutes, when I was finally, like, it was painful to cut some of the stuff that we had. And when I finally got down to 3 minutes, I was relieved. And I was like, okay, I think that's fine. This is good. Let's just leave it at that and send this in. I think it works. Sent it to the cinematographer, and he was surprised that I was able to do it. He was worried about it, that we did all that work and I wasn't going to be able to figure it out, but he was pleased. So
the finished product is just such a well done piece. You know, I was really blown away by, this is really, really cool. And I was like, I think, you know, everybody needs to see this. That's how it kind of. So tell me, in general, do you do a lot of accidental stuff, or is there, like, do you have a formula for, you know, say I'm going to create a piece of artwork, to write a song, and you have a formula that you follow, or is it just more improv?
I would say that the formula is to just go and do it. I can't, I never make anything with a thought completely in mind of what I want it to look like. Like with my visual art, like this right behind me, this was just me sitting and painting for a really long time until the canvas was done. But if somebody asked me to paint a vase with a flower in it, it would look like a 4-year-old drew it, painted it. But when it comes to it's all improv. It's all just kind of, okay, I don't play the piano, I don't play any instruments, so let me just click in some notes, change a time signature, and then have the metronome on, and then just listen to the metronome for a bit and see if anything comes. And then if something comes, then I pluck it in, and then it's just then put some harmonies in there and just experiment with what it sounds like. Start, stop and start. It's a very tedious, frustrating problem, but luckily, because of the ADHD, I can hyperfocus, and hyperfocus is like basically falling into the flow instantly and for hours. And I can't control when that happens. When the inspiration comes, though, I can sit and I can focus and I can get things done pretty quickly. And then here's a song, or here's a painting, or here's a scene, or something like that. Yeah.
Has your relationship with this film changed over time? Do you view it different than you did when the first time you saw it completed?
For this, I think because it worked out so well, my attitude of it hasn't changed much. I see imperfections here and there, but they don't really bother me, and I don't think anybody would catch it upon watching it the first time. But for this project in particular, no, it hasn't really changed at all. When I finally posted out to send it to the public, I was just getting the reactions of the people that saw it. Really touched my heart. And so I would watch it again like it was the first time I watched it, because I'm pretending like I'm watching it through somebody else's eyes from the audience that's watching it, if that makes any sense.
First time I saw it, I had to push away a tear. The hug scene just, I was like, oh damn. I was like, yeah, that's good, that's really good. I really like that. So not to completely switch gears, but I am absolutely curious about this, because this is such a foreign thing for me. This is your choreography. If somebody put a gun and pointed to my feet and said dance, I'd probably get a shot foot. That's how that's how bad a dancer I am. But so I'm intrigued. I love dance, and I love musical theater. I love the incorporation of it. I'm baffled by how you would create these things. So it occupies a space with me out of curiosity, especially in this context of getting inside your brain. So if I handed you of mine and said, we're going to do this, can you please choreograph this? How does that whole thing kind of work? I mean, do you listen to something and then do you envision the whole thing at one time, or is it just, I feel this, so I'm going to take this and then I'll deal with what comes next after that?
I just become very familiar with the music. I listen very, very, very closely to every single note, every single rhythm, every single anything that happens in the song. I just want to be familiar with it, because then the movement if there's a little trill in the flute, then there should be a little trill in the choreography, if that makes sense. And I just become very familiar, and then when I show up, I might have something already prepared, but usually I make it up on the spot. With the group of people, because it's going to be different. One group of people are going to dance differently than a different group of people, so I have to kind of calibrate how they move together, and then after calibrating that, then just start to put movement on their body to see and see what we like. And a lot of mistakes happen. I'll have to redo something or change something, which can be frustrating for the dancer. but it's necessary for them to look as good as possible, because my goal is to not only have the choreography look good, but I want the people who are doing the choreography to be comfortable and for them to look good doing what they're doing.
I had no idea, that you had that talent to be able to, get a group of people to do that with such grace and such style. I was just like, oh wow, this is like, why is Ace not in on Broadway, Broadway choreographer and stuff like that. So it's like it's neat because like I said in my little intro to this series, that Kansas City has some amazing, and I want to encourage everybody to follow the links that are in my comments down below and investigate Ace and and support him, and if you can attend any of the events that he has going on, and however you can, local art matters, art in general matters, especially now, is because I consider art like the artery of our humanity, so it's like it's a reflection of us, it's a reflection of who we were, who we are, and who we're going to be. So you're not just a friend of mine, you're somebody I look to and say, this is a very, very talented young man who's doing some really incredible things, and I can't thank you enough for taking the time out to kind of talk to me a little bit about all the good things you got going on and run through this film with me, and all the explanations. And can you tell everybody, is there anything you got going on?
Right now, I am performing in How I Became a Pirate at Theater for Young America at Union Station. We run for one more week after this. I just received a grant for a film that my next film. So I've been putting that together, but that's not going to happen until 2026.
Being stellar.
Yeah.
Being stellar. Very good. Well, thank you, friend.